Hey everybody, it's Marty, the JavaScript party, and my buddy Rhett is back there. So this time I tried something a little different. I watched my video, but she wasn't in the room when I watched my last video for this web series, and then I brought her in. So we'll see how that works out, because I think she got a little bit too rambunctious in a couple of the previous videos. But maybe not, there's no telling how it's being sort of accepted on the other side with my couple of regular watchers, and then like the 5 or 6 or 8 other people that end up watching, or at least starting to watch. But anyways, so I have noticed, I think I mentioned it yesterday too, that I have this little warning that's showing up. It's like it says a project in the workspace is using a newer version of Angular than the language service extension. This may cause the extension to show incorrect diagnosis. And they are absolutely making sure that I see this, right? Like it shows up every time and it stays up until I actually, like it doesn't go away, all that. So, and then the only actions that it gives me is to turn it off, which is probably a mistake. But I would say that this right here looks like a lie, and it's not like your sort of low level lie where someone says something that's not true. This looks to me like a lie of omission. It looks like there's some really bad consequence that happens if as a result of this, but they're not saying what it is. They're just saying, they're just more covering their butt. They're saying, hey, yeah, there's something screwy. We haven't updated to the latest. We're not telling you why we haven't updated to the latest. We're not even telling you that we haven't updated to the latest. All we're telling you is that you have a newer version of Angular than the language service extension. So I would suspect that they're leaving out a couple things. One, like, is there a way to upgrade? And I'm guessing there isn't, because I think if they had a way to upgrade, we would have a, like in the things that you could do, it would have said upgrade, but we can't. Two, there's probably some sort of consequence for doing that, and turning it off may be the best thing you could do because of it. But I don't know. Like, it could be some very, very minor thing, like just like, oh, it's just a minor inconvenience, but like somebody made a big deal out of it. Or it could be like your project can get completely corrupted. There's just no telling what that lie is, but there is a lie there, and that's a lie of omission. And I feel like technical people feel very, very comfortable making lies of omission. And I don't think that that's a healthy thing for the industry. But, anyways, it is very good to recognize when you see a lie. And if you see a lie, then sort of just have your spidey senses on to pay attention to what's going on. With that said, um, we are dealing with trying to get this little scene to render in this square. That's at 30,000 feet what we're trying to do. Now at 10,000 feet, we're trying to, we're dealing with the fact that we have a canvas that is 300 by 150 and a div that's 200 by 200. Now, if we go, so at this point, we're looking at 10,000 feet, and this is where you end up with like experts or important people weighing in. And one of those important people may very well say, oh, we need this to be responsive. Let's make this responsive. And they might send you as the developer down a path of trying to make the canvas responsive so that it fits. And I guess maybe take one more step back. So what people want, and it makes a lot of sense, is they want you as the developer to sort of break down the little pieces that you're going to have to go through to make something work. And then they want to be able to analyze those individual pieces, and they want to be able to weigh in. And so as a developer, my next sort of thing is okay, I need these two to be the same, right? So that's 10,000 feet. I need those. I gave you the 30,000 feet. Now I give you the 10,000 feet. Now this is where the experts start to sort of weigh in, and one of them will likely say, well, let's not make it, let's make this a responsive canvas. And that can poison pill the entire thing, because every single aspect of ThreeJS and the way things are based on everything being defined and executed. There's no outside rules being being applied. I don't think they coded it in any way, shape, or form with ever the thought that someone's going to apply a CSS rule to the canvas and cause things to happen. So this is the point where like the experts can really push you in the wrong direction, and you could end up spending months banging your head against the wall when it wasn't a feasible solution to begin with. It makes total logical sense. There's no reason why making a responsive canvas isn't a possible solution, except for that's just not how shit works. Honestly, that's just not how it works. That's the only answer. So anyways, so basically the width of this canvas and the height of this canvas is in fact controlled in our system. We have a way of controlling that, and that's in our scene, and we provide st scene cs has meshes. Oh no, that's in our visualization. See, it's so easy. Like, I always want to think of the scene or render. I always want to think of the scene as the top of the hierarchy, but the renderer is the top of the hierarchy. So I just had like where I stepped off of the appropriate path of the way my brain should be configured to be able to deal with ThreeJS. I stepped off. My brain had elevated the scene to the top of the hierarchy, and now I just got smacked back down by TypeScript. So thank you, TypeScript, because I needed that. So in the renderer, we actually have a width and a height on our side where we define that. So we should get one of these renderers, and then we should give it to the ThreeJS and figure out how to make ThreeJS use the correct height and width, and come up with a really good, elegant way, because we are at the sort of the atomic level of the application. So we just went from 30,000 feet to 10,000 feet straight down to ground level, walking at the ground level. And so, and we skipped 5,000, 1,000, 200 feet. We're just right on the ground. And right on the ground, we have an ST width and an ST height. And inside of our component, so we have a list of components, and inside we have a viz component, which, you know, maybe I should have called it a renderer, but I called it a visualization, and maybe it should have been a renderer component. But anyways, I feel like viz makes some sense. But so we create a renderer, and maybe we should already have a baseline renderer, our renderer. What we have is our renderer service, which then will create an actual ThreeJS 3 WebGL renderer. And what we want is, so, but we want to control the renderer, and we want to control it with our stuff, which our stuff is the ST stuff. So I think it makes sense at this point. And here we are, we're kind of doing something that we're going to have to undo later. So like we have a bunch of stuff here to make this guy render, and this is a bunch of stuff we did, and then now we're going to have to undo it. Well, it's the same deal. We're going to do some stuff in the visualization that we'll probably end up undoing later. And basically what we need is an ST renderer, right? So, and we do have we have services, and we have our 3 services, and we have our utility services. We do not have an ST services. If I want to get an ST renderer, I probably should get it from an ST services. So it looks like the next step is to create a services, an ST renderer services. And what do I always do? I don't know. What I always do, I do know, is I go into my packages and I open them and I create a new script. And basically, I do have a service already, right? Service animation. So if we look in here, and it's 3, and I don't know if it should be in 3 or if it should be an ST. But let's go ahead and create. We do know we want an ST. Um, I don't know if that. See, animations is always going to be a kind of a weirdo because it has nothing. ThreeJS doesn't have animations built into it in any way, shape, or form, and I think that sort of implies that this is a ThreeJS animation. So I actually would rather have animations not even be in 3. I would rather it be in on its own level. So I think I should do that right now because I don't know if I'll ever be able to sort of do this again. And it is weird that it's not in its own folder. So I think what I maybe want to do is just for now, just as not just for now, but I think the easiest way to deal with this is to rename this folder. And we may go back. I mean, so this is our animations folder because I don't think animations is a 3 thing. But I remember the reason I put it in 3 is because I think animation directly interacts with ThreeJS. Is that right? Yeah, see. And I don't think it actually does directly interact with ThreeJS because, I'm in renderer. See, that one makes sense to me, right? That renderer is in ThreeJS in 3, but animations. Yeah, see, animations doesn't even directly interact with ThreeJS. So actually renaming that would have been a horrible decision. So I'm going to give it its own folder. And really, honestly, I would probably leave that for another time, except that I think it's just super clear to me right now that that this does need to be in its own folder. Okay, so we do want to move them. Now it should ask me here in a second, do you want to update? But it didn't. Okay, so fortunately, it looks like we don't have a whole lot of breakages. Looks like an app component. Oh, there we go. Yes. I would like you to update that. And then I'm thinking that there's one thing that has changed that is not, and I wish there was a way that you could tell like what this one thing is. One unsaved file. There's an unsaved file. I do not know what it is. I don't think it's obvious what it is. I'm guessing that it's in app components. Yep, app components. We can see the little dot. So let's save that. All right, so if you ever watch, there's a great show, the original version of Blue's Clues, I thought was one of the best shows for describing computer programming for children. And there's a new Blue's Clues. I don't know. I've never watched it, so I don't know. But my kids were my sons were very, very young, and their favorite show was Blue's Clues. And what would happen is that this guy and this dog, which was named Blue, would solve problems. And halfway through the problems, they would get a mail call. They would completely throw them off. So they were like, oh, we need to figure this out. And they would kind of go through the process of figuring it out. And then all of a sudden they'd be like, mail call. And then they would get all excited and they would do this mail call thing. And then they would take care of the mail, do whatever they need to do, to take care of that, and then they would get back to the problem. That's what just happened, right? Like I'm going along, and I'm like, okay, I want to make a new service, and I want to make this new service to handle rendering, giving me a baseline, basic renderer, ST renderer, and I'm like, where should this go? Oh wait, oh wow, we have this animation. So animations was mail call, and we took care of animations, and now we're back to that. So what we were doing was we were trying to go into packages. And now in my brain, I don't know how everybody else works, but I kind of want to go back and fix this, but then I kind of don't. I kind of like the idea that it's pointed in the wrong place. So it's sort of a history of what my original intention was, and then there is no history of my new intention, but I don't know. It doesn't even matter, really, honestly. I probably put a lot of brain power into that just so that I remember it more than that it actually has any value. But I want to create a service, and I want it to be a ST renderer service. So ST render, and the way I would do that is something along these lines. I guess I might as well copy the whole thing. And instead of 3, I want it to be in ST. And I want it to be called ST renderer. And I just don't know. I think that's going to be good. I think it's going to create everything. I think it's going to end. It's going to be name service and all that. I think it's going to add the service to the name and all that. But I don't know. And it's kind of a bummer that I'm not checked in right now, because it is one of the nice things is being able to just delete it and know what you want. But basically what we should end up with is a new folder in here called ST, and then a new couple of files called renderer. And now I think I want it to be in a renderer folder, because I know there's going to be more. Like I know there's going to be an ST mesh, an ST. So I think there's going to be that. So I'm going to do that, renderer. And then I think it would do that. And see, this is where there's a bit of inconsistency in the way that it works for components, because when I go create a new component, it actually will create a folder for the component. But when I create a renderer, it doesn't create a folder for the renderer. So, and those are like sort of the little details that you just sort of have to remember. It's kind of a pain. But npm run, and that is the kind of thing that we could just, like me and some developers, we could just argue all day about that. Like when I was a kid, or when I first became a professional, computer professional, it was like, I think it might have even been pre-Google. Like I don't know if Google existed in 1996 yet, but Google clearly wasn't the leader in search. If it did exist, it wasn't the leader in search. It had lots of potential competitors, and many of which don't exist anymore. But before, and it wasn't that reliable. Like you mostly could just search on stuff and find basically individual things that individuals have built. So we could just argue all day over how many people lived in China. I mean, we could truly, like, you can't have that argument today because you could just look it up. But back then, you could argue all day. We could literally argue for weeks on end, and then suddenly somebody would bring in an encyclopedia and see, look, there is X number of people in China. That is sort of how that worked. This is like whether on a service, it should create a folder for a new service that you create, or whether it should just put them on top. We could argue about that all day, and I think people do like that. But anyway, so let's go ahead and do that and sort of picture what we want. I want an ST in here. Yep. And then we want a renderer, and then we want a renderer service, and we want it to be named ST renderer service. Yeah, that was exactly what I was hoping for. Um, I know that like sometimes I just want to put the word service in the name of the command, and then I end up with service, and just all kinds of stuff. But I do think this is the direction I want to go. I think I want the render service to be in its own folder. Um, Not 100% sure on that. I think I'm at 58.42%. Um, but yeah. So, anyways, now we have our renderer service, and then what I want is like a get an st renderer. So, like, this is something we probably could have done at the very beginning. Like, we could have made a get the st renderer when we first started this inside the app. But like when we were working on the app, um, like there was all kinds of things going on. Like it was like crazy. So we just didn't know. Like there was no way to. Um, I'm gonna say empty. No, get base st renderer. We just didn't know what to do. Like we just didn't know. It would have been nice, but like there. Oh, and then there was just so many different things that we needed to do, and so we just kind of got something working, um, and that's where we're at. And it would be very difficult to sort of explain that today. So, anyways, my if you're hearing some beeping, I don't know if you can hear it through there or not. I have a vacuum, automated vacuum, and that was vacuuming, and it has somehow gotten itself stuck. So um, we have that. So, anyways, this thing needs to return an interface. I mean, a value that is, and we have defined the value inside of our interfaces, and this is st. So even though it says 3, which confused me, it's in the st folder. And I think that makes sense. I'm wondering if I should have moved triple into like a interfaces utilities folder. Um, but for now, we are going to get our render. And see, I'm immediately back to thinking a scene is at the top of the hierarchy. It's just the weirdest thing. And so we're going to return a renderer. And it doesn't know what a renderer is at this point because it doesn't have it up there. And it really does help you mentally. It helps me mentally, anyways, to sort of look at this and like actually think through these two quick fixes. One of them says, do I want to bring it in from my index, or do I want to bring it in from my directly from the actual where it's defined, or do I want to bring it in from the index file? And I kind of wish it said /index, but it doesn't. But that's where I want it. So now it's upset that I'm not actually returning an st renderer. Um, so what we want to do is, for the moment, and this is definitely a for the moment, we want to sort of do something along the lines of copying the render we have up here. So if we copy this whole thing, I think, and return it, we should be good, but it's going to have some issues because, first of all, the width and the height. So all of this stuff, it has a problem with. It doesn't know what 3 is. It doesn't know what an ST scene is. And it doesn't know what an ST camera is. And we never did say return. Okay, so now that went away. So back to this, and we I believe we can get it from here. So, and this always feels really good to me. Just being able to manually type it in, like it just sort of gives me like a positive feeling, like, oh, okay. Now I don't know why. Oh, okay, so we really want const. We weren't returning the camera. Are you crazy? Okay, so for now we know, and this is definitely not something we want to stay with. Well, we probably want to define this somewhere, but for now we're going to define it here. But we're going to say const start with, and that's equal to, I believe it's 150, 250. And 200. So our start with is 200. And our start height, oh, uh-oh. Gret is being very sweet today. It's equal to 200. And then, so she said, I love you, but she said it in my wife's voice. And then she said it again, but in my voice. Oh, wait, start with. And actually, I don't even want it, because this caused me nothing but grief in the last application. So right now, the aspect ratio is 1, right? Because the height and the width is 1. There's absolutely no frigging reason to calculate that here. Okay, so now we want to do a const stScene. And we want to import that, and this time it knew how to import it, and it put it in Q. Now see it, and maybe that's my fault. That's QRS. And do I think it's important? I do think it is important to sort of have these sorts of things in alphabetical order. And I don't think the best reason is because your chances of having a Git conflict with another developer, if you guys have these in alphabetical order, go way down. If you put it right at the top or right at the bottom, the chances go way up. But if you put it in alphabetical order, the likelihood that you're both going to want to change the exact same line at the exact same time goes way down. So I strongly suggest doing those, even though I don't really care. Like, as a human being coding, I just don't give a crap about that kind of thing. I think it makes life easier, and I do give a crap about that. Okay, so we definitely need to import 3. Now, I do, like, there's no reason to do it this way, but I like to remember things. So I think it's very healthy to 3 from 3. Maybe this is, how did I do this? Yeah, okay. And then as 3. And I'm pretty sure one of those is supposed to be lowercase. And I don't know what I did wrong there. So now let's go to the apps and go look and figure out what I did wrong. No, it's supposed to be import star from as 3 from 3. So next time we'll try to get that right. And I don't know why, I find it to be much healthier on your brain to remember things. It's just a good exercise. It's probably kind of like doing push-ups or something. All right, so we're good there. We're good there. All these hard coded things. I think all of these things should end up being defined. We probably should have like some sort of definition service or something like that that defines all of these things. And I don't even think we should have a geometry or any meshes in our default. Our default should probably be meshless. I think it has to have a camera, and we have to have some default wherever it's going to look at, and that probably should be 0. And this probably should be 5, or maybe not. I don't know. But frustrum, yeah. So we should have this all defined somewhere, and that definitely is like something we could do now. But let's go ahead and just move forward with this. Now this is what we want to return. And then I don't understand. This goes to here. Oh, okay. So we're returning this, and then I think this is just width, right? Or is it default width? Yes. Oh, start width. All right, so we have something. So now, I know there's a way you can set up to where like it will automatic, like you can give it a bunch of lint rules and then you can hit some keystrokes and it'll automatically apply them, and it looks a lot nicer when you do that. I don't know. That's like a dragon I just do not feel like slaying right now. All the rest of this looks good. Looking good. All right. So now we have our way of getting a renderer. So let's just go ahead and code it to get the renderer. We won't apply the renderer yet, but just because I'm sure our time is, yeah, we're at 32 minutes. It's probably a good idea. I am going to go into work tomorrow and see how things work out. I hope it works out fairly well, but I don't know. I don't know exactly how it's going to go. I'm going to see, but I definitely want to sort of go in a different direction with my life and with the things I want to do, accomplish in my life and stuff like that. But let's see, this component, viz component. Gosh, it feels like it should be renderer component. We'll probably decide. Okay, so we have our renderer service, but we will also want to have our, I think it's the ST renderer service. I like how that has sort of worked itself out. That feels good. That feels right. So we have our renderer service, and then we also have our ST renderer service. Why does it not have the word service in it? I could have sworn we made sure. Oh. Control copy. So I really like this. I really like how these two are going to be sitting right next to each other. And so it kind of gives it, like, if anyone looks through this code, they'll just be like, oh, there's a renderer service and there's an ST renderer service. What's the difference? You know, like, I think that's a good thing for someone to have sort of jump through their brain, is that there is these two concepts. And you know, I think it puts a, you know, they'll probably go, oh, okay, I know. Like, it's impossible not to note this if you look at these two lines. You probably won't like dig deep into it, but yeah, that'd be good. So now this only happens once. So The view gets of this actual component only gets executed once. And man, like the more I dig into this, the more I think we should redo this component and call it the renderer. But it isn't. It isn't a renderer. It is the visualization. Yeah, I like viz. Okay, well, I'm just going to keep going back a bit. So const st renderer, which is of type st renderer equals this dot st render service dot get base render. And then, you know, just, I think this is right. Let's see if we get a blue. We don't get a blue, but it does it did see it, and it did give me two choices. I guess that is the only interface that we have so far. So that looks good. So now we have our st render. It would be good to let's just do this. And I'll tell you, so now we have our renderer. We can do a console log just so we can just double check it. Console.log. You know, Rhett, that is a great point. That is an excellent point, and we will make sure to deal with that. So we have our render. Okay, so does that satisfy you? Yeah? Does that look good? Okay. So yeah, we definitely have it. It looks like it has information that we want in it. I think we have like sort of two paths in front of us, right? One path is to deal with all these like hard-coded values and kind of put them somewhere, like the st width, the st height, the camera stuff, and all that. Like bake that into something somewhere, which I would imagine that is something that, yeah, I don't know. That's probably something that you want to pull in off of from an API, but yeah, we're going to hard code it into the code, into a service, probably into its own little service that has nothing but defaults. And we'll rename them to defaults instead of starting. But then the other thing that we could do is start updating our renderer with the stuff from the render service. Or probably in our render service that we have, not our st renderer service, but our renderer service. So like if we go to the definition of this, we could add a update renderer that accepts a rendering service and then goes through and updates all of the pieces, which is probably the ideal way to do that. But the point is that we have two paths in front of us and one developer to do it. So now I have to go down. I'm going to have to do both paths. Now, if you're not a developer, you may think, oh, we can just give this to two different people. That will be almost impossible for two people to do independently. Unfortunately, yes, they are two parallel paths, but they are 100% dependent on each other. So only one developer can work on it. It would be nice if two developers could work on it, but creating the defaults, I mean, you could have it. I guess it would make sense to have one developer create the defaults, since we already have the interfaces. But the thing is everybody had to be very committed to not modifying their interfaces. And then if you found something that was wrong in their faces, so what one person could be doing is writing the code that does the updates everything with the data that comes from the base, and the other one could be writing the code that sets up all the default values. And the nice thing about that is then you've sort of divided the knowledge between multiple people. You're not fully dependent on one developer that knows everything. You have two developers that know most everything, and if one of them gets sick or gets hit by the bus or whatever, um, uh, the other developer can continue to go on. You don't have it all baked into one person, but the disadvantage is that it's probably going to take longer for the two of them, and there's a good chance that they would step on each other. But then one of the advantages of that is after a little while, they would get to know each other and they would understand, oh, yeah, no, he's likely to change. Oh, that guy will never, never do this without changing the interface. He is hardwired to, he's going to change the interface. So let me just talk to him and say, hey, when you change the interface, you tell me what they are and stuff like that. But anyways, yeah, that we are there, and we're getting close. I think the path I want to go down next, because I think it'd be a little easier to, I think it's going to be fairly easy to spin up doing the path where we set the defaults. I don't think it'll take much to go, okay, now I need to set up the defaults and I can come up to speed pretty quick. I think it'll be slower and more difficult to come up to speed on actually updating the renderer properly and all that. But yeah, it seems like what I want to do is create a function in here. So tomorrow I want to create a function in here that takes a renderer ID and an ST renderer and updates everything appropriately for it. And then hopefully when we do that, I think what will happen is this thing will update. Now, I thought, let's see, ST renderer. Okay, so we don't have an ST animation. So I think what will happen is it'll render once, and then we're going to have to move forward on that. So then we'll have another path forward, like do we want to do animations or do we want to do defaults? And we'll probably want to do defaults before we go down animations, even though animations is going to take a lot to sort of come up to speed and figure out how to set up the animations. This will be a better way. Anyways, yeah, here we go. We're slowly starting to get a bit of momentum rolling. I think I have a very clear path and understanding of where I want to go, but I do not think that like it would be feasible to do this in a professional environment like the way I'm doing it. Like management's going to want to see more results faster. And you'd have to kind of do something like, okay, so this week we're showing one of these, and then next week we're showing 5 of them, and then the following week we're giving you like a little thing you can click, and you can control how wide and tall and how many you have. And you have to give them some stuff so that they get the impression that things are moving forward, and and ideally things are actually moving forward, but they want to see things. They don't want you just talking about things, because to be honest, most of the time when people are just talking about things, they're lying or being full of shit, or there's a lie of omission there or something like that. So they actually want to see results because they've just been lied to so many times before. But anyways, happy coding, everybody. Bye.